All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the regular meeting, the special meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. Our first agenda item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Sarah, would you please lead?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All members of the Board of Selectmen are here and present. We have two draft minutes to approve. The first one is the joint meeting from the Board of Selectmen and Board of Education dated June 26th. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the June 26, 2024 Board of Selectmen and Board of Education joint special meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Board of Selectmen special meeting from June 27th, 2024. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the June 27th, 2024 Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I do have some corrections.
What do you got?
On page 4, for Sandra Downey Economic Development, the term is expiring January 1st, 2028, not the June 27th, 2028. I watched the tape back.
Yep.
Okay, and then number 3 is also incorrect. The correct term is October 1st, 2025.
So which one, what was the second?
Number 3.
3 for Sandra Downey for planning and zoning. The correct term is August 1st,
Yeah, I
20.
got that one.
Okay,
I thought you said there was.
there is, we already did the other one. January 1st, 2028 was for economic development. Page 6, the motion about the registrars, I don't feel that the word reimburse is correct because we weren't reimbursing her. We were looking to compensate.
It would be to approve
Okay.
rather than reimburse.
Okay, and I feel that that motion, the first motion should be to, I had written to compensate Mrs. Goodrow at her request of $1,062.50, just because I feel that motion is pretty vague.
I'll take that entirely as an emotion, an amendment.
Okay. And then also for the second motion, I don't know if it should be $35 as set by state statute. And I don't know that for training per day is correct, because is that saying that there's more days than what the days in question? I just didn't want any issues.
The $35 was by state statute.
Right,
Per day they pay for training,
Yeah.
and we adapted the same,
right. Okay,
$35 a day for training
yeah,
or in-town training. We didn't say in-town, but that was the implication, that it would be for any training that she would do,
okay,
would be done here.
All right, so it would be to approve the registrar's compensation at $35 as set by statute for training per day.
yes. And I believe that's all that
Any others?
Just item, it's just minor, but just to clarify, to put back, I believe it's page 2. Where the correction was made. Correction on page 5 must be corrected, please corrected and submitted by the register. It's supposed to be corrected that the training for the workers was submitted by Register Karen Goodrow. Because
Where are you?
on the correction on page 4, over the minutes, page 3. The correction.
Okay.
Because it was originally put that the employees put in for compensation. It wasn't, it was the register of voter, Karen Goodrow, that put in that
Yep,
half hour, for them, not them.
got it.
Okay,
Others?
no, then she fixed the other one for the state.
Anyone else? On the minutes as amended, all in favor?
I,
Opposed? Public participation, this is one of Two opportunities for members of the public to address the board, members of the Board of Selectmen. Just want to make sure because it's a special meeting and you don't know. I'll first ask if there's anybody in the room who would like to address the board and invite you to offer your name and your address and then state your business and then provide the same opportunity to anybody who may be with us online. Is there anyone in the room who would like to address the members of the Board of Selectmen? I'm going to go with Mr. Anderson out of Ritual. Name and address, please, sir.
Yeah, it wasn't fast enough. Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street, Broadbrook. I don't want this to sound negative because my intent is not negative. But I want to reiterate what I said at the last meeting. That I believe is an unwritten policy of what can be displayed on town property, which I think should be written, but you guys work on what you gotta work on. And the arts and culture proposal showed an example of what may not be appropriate for that particular sidewalk as it may be interpreted as something unintended. So that was pretty much what I said last time. I'm not against the project. I'm against causing problems by having something that's interpreted inappropriately.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Buckley.
Tom Buckley, Kings Court, Broadbrook. I have a question, goes back to the days of Longville. And the question being is everybody happy with Main Street, Broadbrook? The reference to. White lines and yellow stripes.
Talk about the road project?
Paving.
I haven't heard any complaints about it.
You must be happy. It's all paved except for the crosswalks.
Yeah.
Other than that, you have to address them. You can't ask me questions. Not that I wouldn't want to answer. So are we all content with the, the job that's been done? You're all happy about that?
I'll tell you, there's still a punch list of work to be done, but I haven't had any constituent complaints. I've had complaints from the inspection team that has gone out and looked at it, just with some punch list items that need to be cleared up, and that'll be done in the next couple of weeks.
And the state does the crosswalks too?
Yes.
Good. I got another question, and I'll save it for the last section. Oh, boy. Yes. It's gonna be.
Okay.
All right.
Is there any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? Is there anyone online who would like to address the members of the Board of Selectmen? Seeing none, we will move on to discussion and vote on the track replacement contract. So you all were at the town meeting where the funding was approved. The company that we're going to go with is the same company that is doing the Osborne Field improvements. They're on the Sourcewell contract. The contract has been vetted by Pullman and Comley. It was included in part anyway in your packet, and an updated version was sent this afternoon. Any comments, questions, concerns?
They, are they scheduled to do this over the summer?
It will not be completed over the summer.
It won't be,
Absolutely. It'll be started over the summer for sure.
but it'll be started.
Yeah, absolutely. But it will, the opportunity to complete it over the summer, we would have had to approve this in probably February.
They're not waiting for another break in the school year. They're gonna do it while school's in session.
Correct. And we've already worked with, or we are working with, the athletic director in the school district to make accommodations for home soccer games and to set up, supplementary practice fields so that there isn't an interruption in athletics. There will just be an interruption in the use of that facility.
It doesn't mention here a bond, but
It does.
it does.
Number two on page 1.
Oh, I skipped right over page
They're
1.
actually not attached, but it says referencing the ones that will be attached.
Right.
Right.
Nobody else has anything. I have a couple things.
Okay.
2 things. did research on this company that we have this agreement for, and nothing in any of the research that I've done has indicated that they ever installed a track. They do tennis courts, they do indoor courts, outdoor courts, but all the websites that I looked at under 3 different names that they go by, an LLC, a holding company, and their place in Connecticut. I don't see anything where they ever put that in. I'm also concerned is that we have a lump sum of $500,000 and that we're doing 25%, 25%, 25%, and 25%. Without knowing the breakdown of the cost actually for the job to be done. There's a comment here about material that's going to be used. But it's not material that, and some of the things that I looked at, other companies that put in tennis courts and stuff and tracks in, they talk about polyurethane, the ground, they're talking about, doing different things. This contract says they're gonna remove the existing track. It doesn't say anything about removing the tree and the tree roots or anything that's
That's
underneath.
not included in this.
Well, I asked that at the meeting and I was told it was all included because the tree was my biggest concern and the roots that are gonna go back under the track if they use the existing circle. So I have a concern with that. And then you saw that attachment that they tell you to go to and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
That
The,
concerns me.
the tree is not included, tree work is not included in the contract that's in front of us. It is included in the additional funding that was appropriated for the project. This company is not a tree company. They're,
I understand that,
so the additional $70,000 is for the tree removal work that needs to
which
be.
was part of the $500,000.
No,
570.
no. 570
was-
570 was the project. 500 is the engineering and the replacement of the track. 70,000 is the actual removal of the trees.
Okay, that's,
So it's not, you're right, it's not in that contract because it's not what they're
Okay.
doing. Somebody else doing.
I missed that along the way. That was probably my fault, so I apologize, but thank you for the clarification. But I'd like to know what bids did we put out? Because everything I read, the bid can be from anywhere from 65,000 to $1.2 million for a track.
$65,000 for a track.
For a small track, that's what my research says, up to $1.2 million for a track.
So we got 3 quotes. All of them were on Sourcewell, which our policy allows us to deal straight with Sourcewell or the DAS bid list.
Yeah.
This company was the middle of the 2. The low company was a company called Reckerton, who continued to increase the price every time that they reached out. That price went up $84,000. It's the first conversation that was had. And by the time we get this approved, would have gone up in excess of 500,000 that's in front of us. The high bid was a guy who clearly didn't want the job, who said it would be $1.4 million. So you're out. So this was the lowest responsible bidder that was on the state bid list for this work.
Okay. Thank you.
And the tree work is not in it. Other questions or comments? May I have a motion?
Move to approve the agreement between the town of East Windsor and Hinding Tennis Courts and authorize the signature of the first selectman.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
No, I said
We did.
I'm having problem answering the question on the contract. I don't necessarily agree with the draft. I agree with the contract.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, Mrs. Williams, I'd like to invite you up and talk to us about what your latest, greatest idea is, and maybe we can ask some questions that have been raised of us and take it away.
So I'm here tonight on behalf of the Arts and Culture Committee to ask for permission to paint the crosswalk here in between the town hall and the Broadbrook Elementary School. Because it is a town road, we would need your permission to move forward with this installation. This project would have a lot of benefits. One of the benefits for us would be an opportunity to collaborate with another entity in town that we have not collaborated with before, and that's the Youth Services Bureau. They are 100% on board with helping out with this project. If it were to be approved, And we would also like to pull in the Broadbrook School and perhaps the police to collaborate on this project as well. Another benefit is it's an opportunity for the community to come together and create something as a whole. And this is a very heavily trafficked street, and so it would be a highly destination. I think hundreds of people probably drive by on their way to and from work every day. People walk it, they walk their dogs, they ride their bikes. So it would probably be our most highly visible art installation to date. Because this area is heavily traveled, people also tend to speed around the corner, and I know that can be dangerous because I also know that a lot of parents and students who park over in the parking lot in the morning and in the afternoon for pickup and drop off at school tend to not use the crosswalk. And they cut across the road because it's the closest way, or their fastest way to get to the entrance to the school. So maybe having a colorful crosswalk would encourage people to use it. And it would also be visible as people came around the corner, and maybe that would remind drivers to slow down and look for pedestrians.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
A question that I do have, because it is a town road, would we need to get and maybe since he's with us online, I'll ask Chief Carl. Is this something that the legal traffic authority needs to opine on?
I believe that is correct.
Okay. Have you had conversations with them yet?
No, I just had to get permission from you.
I did too, until we started talking about this, and then I saw his photo there. So one of the, how would we go about deciding what the art installation was to be?
So to speak to Mr. Anderson's concern, sometimes a rainbow is just a rainbow. It's found in nature. It's something that kids draw. It's colorful. It's a sign of hope and peace and new beginnings. And I would have no problem with people, personally, I would have no problem with people perceiving it as a pride flag. But I'm speaking for a town committee, and we want people to be happy, and we want positive feedback. And so I think the best design would probably be just a random pattern. So are you familiar with the artist Banksy?
I think I am.
One of his works. So that's kind of what I had in mind.
That's like example 3 is the real world example that was included in your letter.
So, if this were to be a community event, what we would probably do is advance of the community getting there. We would put colored dots on the bricks, and then when people got there, they would just have to, get a cup of yellow paint and then find the brick with the yellow dot on it and paint in that brick. Once there, all the different colors.
If anybody wants to see the example that she's put forward. Any other questions or comments from?
Who's gonna determine, what design you utilize? Just throwing that out there.
I don't know.
That the traffic authority, is that, my only concern with doing it, and I don't have a problem with any of the designs that are here, these are elementary school kids, and as far as I'm concerned, the adults are making an issue out of colors, the kids aren't making an issue out of colors. So I don't have a problem with any design you go with, but my only concern is what kind of paint you're using and will cause any kind of safety concern. So if there's any shine that comes off of headlights at nighttime, that kind of stuff.
We would be using water-based acrylic paint because it's known for its excellent adhesion to various surfaces, including asphalt and concrete. This type of paint is commonly used for road markings, crosswalks, and parking lots, providing long-lasting results while minimizing environmental impact.
Well, why did I not? You had it under control.
Interesting little aside. Those are not brick crosswalks.
They're not?
They are not. That is concrete. It is stamped concrete painted to look like brick.
Well, see, I got fooled. Really?
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea for a community project. Personally speaking, if I can speak, it's a great idea for the kids. I know Enfield did, one of their markets on Route 5 down towards the far end of Route 5, in
The
Connecticut.
Enfield,
They did,
Produce and Deli. So
Deli.
that same artist is painting a flag on the American Legion building
Nice.
this summer.
And it was a great community to get together. People came out if they wanted to, they didn't, if they didn't want to. And the kids that were involved in it thought it was the greatest thing ever. And it's still up there. It's been almost a year now and it's as bright as it was the day that it was finished.
And we talked about doing a community paint at the American Legion, but the slope of that hill, it's too
Yeah.
steep. It just wouldn't be safe.
So, so whatever design you go with, I'm fine.
Would we get your approval first and then
So, again, I'm gonna put him on the spot and ask the chief. Does the legal traffic authority have to approve the image or the action of painting the crosswalk?
I believe that they have to approve the action. So some of the things that we would look at is where they were going to place it, what it was, and see if it considered whether it was going to be distracting to any drivers. One of the number one things the local traffic authority has to do is consider distraction to drivers, or if it changes any sort of type of things. I mean, we're not talking about much here, so I don't think it's a big deal, but local traffic authority would have control over that.
Sounds like, you folks would need to decide on an image, probably get our approval and then go to the police commission.
I just had one, I mean, it was kind of the same vein that Marie was asking as far as durability goes. You know, so you kind of alluded to the fact that they're using that water-based acrylic. Is that actually what is used in line striping and whatnot? I mean, so that kind of lasts a number of years. I'm wondering if this paint also will last, 1 year, 5 years, do you think, or?
I'm not sure.
As an upside, if it didn't last, it's an opportunity to redo it.
Okay, that's gonna be my next question. What's the plan when it needs to be, when it's worn out and it looks like crap? Do it again?
I mean, I'm kind of thinking, I don't know if it's a true corollary, but I'm kind of thinking of the rocks in front of high schools that are painted by the
Right.
class of, and,
Yep.
it looks different every time that they do it. And
Yeah.
I'm not
that's
saying
what
we
I'm
have to
thinking.
redo this
A
annually, but-
Possibility is it's a tradition, and otherwise it just gets somehow, once it's not looking good, somebody has to,
We paint it like bricks again if we don't like it.
okay, or state it, yeah. So that was my only concern. I think everything else, I have no concerns.
Keith?
So I love the project. I think for all the reasons that you said, particularly the location and all the groups coming together. The conversation around how is it going to be selected kind of reminds me of the conversation that was out there a little bit when the Arts and Culture Committee was thinking about being a commission and creating I don't know if it was bylaws or an ordinance. And then, there was going to be like a policy in place. And I remember having some conversations with you guys and hearing some comments from other people about, that, we don't want to be, if an artist were to submit something, right? How is it going to be decided whether they're allowed to be included or not? And one of the goals of the commission that didn't happen was to ensure that there'd be inclusivity, that it would represent the entire community, et cetera. So, we don't have there's no policies for these things.
That's one of the reasons we chose not to become a commission.
Right, but I think that there should be a policy for something like Paul Anderson's pulling out raising this issue, and we're doing an installation here on the road. And I think in the future, we should have a policy that says, how are we going to select the design? Who's going to approve the design? And to ensure that it's, everybody knows what the criteria are, et cetera. I mean, I don't have a problem with the pride flag personally. It's fine with me. That's important to some people. I don't have a problem with a POW flag or some other flag that's really important to other people too. It represents different parts of our community, and there may be appropriate places that there may not be. We have to there's a policy for that. Do we put on town property indicators, indicia of political indicia or social things, or do we say we're not going to do that? And I'm kind of really interested in just raising this issue now so that we're attuned to it. So as we move down and progress through these projects, we are aware of the fact that we should have a policy and so that everybody knows what the criteria are and it's open and transparent. And then we can debate the artwork within the context of that process. If we want, we can have a public debate. And that's what I'm more interested in, is having the public debate at the right time if it comes up. So thank you anyway for bringing this project here.
Sure. And I'll say the same thing that I said last time when this came up, is we won't do anything offensive just because that's who we are. We want to make people happy. We want people to enjoy art, and we want to enhance the beauty of the town. So we're not gonna we're just not gonna have offensive material. I included a couple of pictures in my initial presentation because I'm a visual person. I have a hard time when somebody tells me an idea to picture it in my mind. I like to see it on paper. If there was anybody else who needed to see it the same way, I included 4 or 5 different pictures, just so you can get an idea of what it might look like. None of those is a final decision. It's probably just gonna be a random pattern.
So what is your thought process for developing the random pattern? Is it something that are you gonna, like you do for the Arts Day? Are you gonna do like a submission-based thing? Are you gonna do something that originates from the commission? Do you have something in mind?
I don't.
Okay,
I guess I would bring it back to the committee and see what they thought. I don't know if
We're not artists. We're gonna rely on you to give us a good
I am not an
recommendation.
artist. I can't draw a stick figure straight.
I'm gonna say none of us are, except for maybe Sarah.
Sarah's got the sea glass thing going, but other than that,
I mean, I'd be
Floral
willing to
design
like,
is an art.
if this project were to move forward and I were to go to a local hardware store or home improvement store and say, hey, do you have any paint samples that you're willing to donate to us? And they gave us red, blue, yellow, and green, then that's the random pattern that it's gonna be. Simple as that.
so I don't know that there needs to be a motion from us at this point. I think that there is acquiescence that we'd like to see you move forward with the project.
Okay.
Come back with what you think it'll look like so that we can stamp that and then we can get it to the police commission for their review, and then you'll be off to go. Thank you.
It'll be okay.
Do you want to keep this?
Oh, no, thank you.
We have the LTA approved first, so that way it sort of follows, like the liquor permit where everybody else that has a piece of it signs off and then we sign up in the end.
I'm fine with that too. You want to start with the police?
Well, no, if you're on here now, do you want to vote on it? You can start there.
Well, we're not going to vote on anything until we see the design work, but we want you to go ahead and come up with what we're going to look.
I was thinking you should get I'm working in the street approval from the local traffic authority first. Right, so then we have all that. That's a part of, right?
And
It's just my opinion.
And I'll speak for him even though he's on Zoom, but I'm sure when he gets back from vacation, Chief Carl can help navigate that process.
Jason, can I offer a couple of things?
Yes, sir.
So the thing that the local traffic authority will consider on this is that the pattern doesn't alter or confuse any traffic control devices at any time. So obviously the crosswalk wouldn't do that. The material used has to be non-permanent and cannot be retro-reflective. Cannot be retro-reflective. The material used cannot create slippery hazard for pedestrians, cyclists, or motorcycles. So you have to make sure that the material is vetted, that's not going to be slippery if it gets wet or any type of dew or anything gets on it. And the material has to fade under normal traffic conditions in a couple of months or less. Cannot be permanent.
What? So are you saying that? Well, I guess I don't understand why it can't be permanent. Is that a regulation?
It's a regulation that, I mean, we could probably see if we could get some approval from the state, but even though it's a town road, it can't be something that's permanent.
Are crosswalks supposed to be permanent?
That's what I was thinking. Aren't crosswalks supposed to be permanent?
Yes, but they're approved. No crosswalks are traffic. This is a symbol and it's an art.
Well, I thought the intention here was to augment the crosswalk, not eliminating. We're just looking to,
Make it pretty.
right.
Well, we could certainly take a look at it.
Those are the questions.
So, yeah, well said.
If I like daffodils that the garden club puts on a corner of a street, I can ask them to do roses instead. Are we going to be that picky? I don't get it.
Thanks, chief.
Enjoy your vacation.
That's why he's here.
I know, but
Okay, so we have another bid that did go out. It pertains to the water line for the middle school. The low bidder was MDB Construction, which has already been vetted by the town. The associated paperwork is included in your packet as well as the bid sheets. I'll cut to the quick on that. The low bidder was MDB. MDB Construction LLC at $77,512. CMC Enterprises came in second at $86,697. And Command Construction came in third at $98,600. This is something that we can and hope to get done this summer so that it doesn't interrupt the school year. So that it doesn't interrupt the school year. So that it doesn't interrupt the school year and potentially take a building offline if the main should break, which has happened. But this also has been reviewed by Pullman. It's the same standard bid document that we've been using. Questions or comments?
It needs to be done.
May I have a motion?
Make a motion to award the bid for the East Windsor Middle School Water Service to MDB Construction LLC and authorize the first selectman to sign it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I'm going to invite the tax collector to come up and explain the vendor services agreement that she's asked us to consider. How are you? How's your July going?
You already know. Lazy.
I should have brought my check. Give it to-
Credit cards the first day.
So the company that I'm proposing that we bring forth is American Financial Credit Services. They're basically a collection agency, but they are for personal property only. We have a collection agency already for motor vehicle, and they do very well for us. And we've been working with them for quite a few years, and it's very streamlined. They work with me on everything. We have it so that every Friday I get an ACH dropped into the bank account. Anybody that I should happen to collect here, which isn't many, I just have it set up so that they bill us and we send it off. They're very flexible. If I have somebody who happens to be sending payments in, and when I send my file to them, if for whatever reason it goes with that file, I call them up or email them, whatever way. Hey, take this person out of the file, no problem. They don't give me any flack whatsoever. So they're very easygoing. They will work at whatever level I want. So, I mean, I can have them push all the way to reporting to credit agencies and whatnot. This company, for the personal property, will do the same thing. They will place UCC 1 liens. They will do the UCC 3 liens, which is with the Secretary of State. So it makes it hard for businesses to get financial monies. They will do bank executions. They will seize assets. They'll do whatever I want them to do. At this point, so personal property is extremely hard to collect because you can have somebody open up a business and 2 months later they're gone. But the way the state of Connecticut works is with personal property, if you are open up in business as of October 1st, you have a tax obligation for that entire year. That's the issue. So they take off and they have a bill, and then they don't sign the personal property declaration and say that they're out of business. And so then they have 2 years worth of bills, and I'm chasing them and they're in the wind. Where these people are going to do skip traces, they're going to make phone calls, they're going to do the stuff that I can't do. I don't have time. I'm doing my regular job. So, and the best part is it doesn't cost the town anything. That's, to me, is a no-brainer. I'm like, go ahead, do it. You want to do it? Do it. So I'm proposing we sign a contract with American Financial Credit and let them do the legwork and collect money. I've had very good success with TaxServe, who does the collections with motor vehicle. They've collected in the past 3 years almost $700,000 for us. So I can't see, and personal property has just been kind of growing. I have businesses in here that owe us seven years worth of taxes. And, you know,
So it doesn't cost the town any money, but the way the company makes their money is by adding 15% and the taxpayer pays that.
that's right.
Okay,
It's a fee. That's a state statute fee. They can't go any higher than that.
okay.
Yep.
So if somebody doesn't pay their taxes, say for 10 years,
Mhm.
doesn't that automatically become a write-off to the town?
15.
It's 15 years to write off.
Yep.
Can be corrected.
Only that 15th year. The other 14 stay there. They gotta wait till it keeps on rolling and rolling and rolling.
Okay.
Just that 15th year.
So for 15 years, it'll actually take you 30 years before you can
Mhm.
collect anything.
No, I don't let them all.
Well, that's also one of the reasons why Patty has been a bit more aggressive in recent years with tax sales, is because she waits until they've missed, is it 2 or 3
Three
consecutive?
installments. And
And then we bring it to a tax sale so that there isn't that, oh, it's year 16 and now we can't go after the money. She uses the resources and the tools she has available to, and that's why her revenue relatively consistently exceeds 100%.
in the past, so when I worked elsewhere, I used to use marshals. And I used to use warrants, bank executions, and I would go out to a business, knock on the door and say, hey, you owe me money. Give me the money. I've actually closed business. I've put chains on businesses and so I've done some dirty work with businesses. But in this day and age, and the crazy people we have, I'm really not anxious to go out there and get shot at or stabbed or something like that. I used to also take cars, load them up on a loader, put them in storage. I'd do it again, but, I think I'd probably have a lot more of the police force with me and a bulletproof vest, but I used to do it, but I think the more diplomatic way of doing it is to try a collection agency. So.
Questions or comments?
Just a question. So, how did you come about finding these folks? Did you get referrals? Do you know someone else that's using them?
Sure. So the town pays for me to go to these seminars. And at these seminars, we bring in all types of vendors. And they were a brand new vendor. And I said, who are these people? And of course, I go marching myself over there. And also, this was the year that I was in charge of all the vendors. So not only am I the state secretary, but I am also in charge of all the vendors. So I made myself quite known to this person. I said, all right, you need to explain to me what you're doing. And how did you get it? Because they're from like Indiana or Illinois. And I'm like, why are you in Connecticut? He says, we're trying to branch out here. And so that's how I met him and his wife. And I sat there and I talked to him for a long time. And then I had another conversation with them several months later on the phone for 45 minutes, drilling them, saying, I want to make sure you're not going to go like wild, wild west on me, because I can't have that, absolutely not. So, and our state president also uses him. So I said, okay, I'm cool.
Following up on Keith's question and based on what you and I spoke about prior to this, how many other companies are you aware of that's in this field for personal property?
None.
So this is the only game in town.
Only game in town. That's why I was very interested when I found out what he was doing. Because the only other way you can collect with personal property is either I go out there and do bank executions and I keep hitting banks, or I'm getting a marshal to go out there and knock on doors. The marshals aren't too anxious to do that. And quite frankly, and I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form as a slur on them, a lot of them are older and they don't want to do it. If they can't send a warrant in the mail or tack it to a door and walk away and collect their fee, they're not interested anymore. You need some young marshals.
Do you have a similar policy in terms of the number of missed payments on personal property, or is it one and it's going to go out? You said for the property taxes, you do think you said three missed payments.
No, I don't. I usually, after a year, I file a UCC lien with them. And that's about it. And I demand, that's about all I can do with them, you know, because they're gone, they're in the wind, you know. So that's why I was very interested in getting some other way of doing collection with personal property.
Right. Well, it seems like it's not a lot of risk because each one of these, for the most part, is probably not going to be so large in terms of money. And so you can see how they're doing it, and then you can make, and you can't be doing this. It's just it's not effective to have you chase down, but then the smaller accounts get forgotten.
Yeah.
If you focus on the big ones.
Well, there's gonna be, I'm usually like what I do with motor vehicle, it's like anything under $50. I'm not wasting my time with those. If they want to chase those, they can, but you pretty much hit a dollar amount, you hit a year and you go, this is yours, go. And they do it. So. The only thing I changed on the contract, you have it, it has my signature on there. I will not have my signature on there. Jason will have to sign it.
There's also a typo in addendum A that needs to be corrected. The word by in the first paragraph should be from.
Okay, I'll just point that out, you know, if you choose to go ahead with this, I can have those changes made.
Yeah, my question was actually on risk as well. So these guys are from Indiana. We're assuming that they're well-versed in Connecticut
Yeah.
tax law.
Yeah.
But what's the liability to the town if these guys go out and do whatever that ends up getting them sued and us too? Like, how are we covered?
If you read the contract, they state that they will take care of everything.
So, well, that's what they can say, but they'll tell you,
Holding your-
everybody can sue everybody.
Well, I mean, that's what you have a contract for. I mean,
Number 19 says that they
Yeah, Maria, right.
indemnify
Right there.
I mean, you can put the contract in front of Pullman and Conley for all I want if you want to, you know, make some changes.
I'd like to.
I would too.
You know, so go ahead. You know,
I'm gonna be honest, I perused through this today. I didn't read it
Mhm.
word for word, but I didn't see any, contract period.
That's what I was.
okay, yep.
So I would like.
Period of contract. How long
Is it good for a year? Is it
Duration.
3 year and the duration of the contract?
And this
Want to do it on a
is
trial
that
basis
meeting.
for a year and then have the ability to move forward if we think it's working well.
I'm looking for approval to use this company. The contract itself was not, a language in it. Obviously has to go before the attorneys and everybody.
Yeah, that's in Word.
No, he's just sent this to me in a PDF. So, I mean, we can get it into Word and then we can change it up. Yeah.
Jason, why don't we just, I mean, I can make a motion. Why don't we make a motion to accept it, subject to the approval of the approval and the editing of the town attorney. And then we can just approve it. That way she doesn't have to come back with a new contract.
So then how long are we going to want it to be for? A year? Or for a trial?
Just do 1 year.
Yeah, and then just like tax service, once a year, remember you have to sign it every year, you know. So that's fine.
It'll be 1 year with renewable at the discretion of the client.
Right. And Jason signs, you know, if we're happy, then he signs it. Because once you have the approval to use them, obviously I'm not gonna keep using them if I don't like them.
So Keith has made a motion. Is there a second?
We'll second it.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Do you want these back since they're not?
No, it's in the packet. It's public packet now.
Thank you.
It's everybody's right.
Nope, you're all set. Thanks. Okay. I have an update on the community center architect, and it's not a good one. Very sadly, Steve Jager, who was the architect of record for the project, passed away last week. He had apparently had a pretty long, pretty quiet bout with cancer. None of us knew it until we reached out to him, and his wife said, "We're just making him comfortable." And 4 days later, that was the end of him. He was very, very dedicated to the project as much as anybody else was. And certainly he would have liked to have seen it through to fruition, but it put us in a position where we need to figure out what we do next. So we reached out to USDA because they're an 80% funder of the project. And their response was, we've never had this happen before. So what they suggested we do is that we will need to rebid the architect's role. The bid should follow the AIA standards. The document should be clear that what we're looking for is someone to adopt the design work that's already done and move forward, not to redesign the project. And that is going to happen in short order. There's going to be a meeting of the building committee next week to review the bid document and put it out. In the meantime, USDA has provided us a pathway so that there will not be work stoppage, which would involve additional costs and time incurred for the project. That will not happen. The project remains on budget and so far on schedule. So that's the update on that. Certainly our thoughts go out to Steve and his wife. But that's, one of those unknown unknowns, and it is what it is. Sorry. So next up, the chairman of the Capital Improvement Planning Committee is here, as is the finance director. Adam, we're in July. You guys have provided us with your recommendations. The board has them. You want to come up and walk us through anything? If you have a presentation, if not, if you just want to talk.
So as Jason mentioned, everything's submitted. You have a copy of everything that we went through. Just to kind of recap it a little bit, it's been a process that's started last August, September, I guess. All the projects that came before us from all the different departments, boards, commissions, et cetera, totaled $9 million. The amount that was for the next fiscal year was about 4 million. That's what we focused on a little bit. And then from there, we went through hearing from all department heads, board members, et cetera. Went through our rankings, came out with a list. Our initial recommended allocation was 2.1 million. Then through the winter, to the spring, the budget's approved, we get our final allocation that we can move forward with, and that was 1.2 million. And so we came up with a list of projects that we recommend for funding to meet that 1.2 million. The list is in front of you. I can talk through them if you like, or if you have any questions. Want me to just go high level through? Yeah, okay. So if you have questions. The two that came out at the very top were related to the police department. One was related to building security, and that was actually our highest ranked project. As I talked through, we started 9 million, went to 4 million, down to 2 million, down to 1 million. We had to make a number of cuts. So we could only partially allocate, partially cover the requested allocation for that. Again, it very important to us, but we just had to make that money stretch as far as we possibly could. So the request was 123,000. We came up with a final allocation of 74,000. That should be enough for cameras and intercom. The way the projects were presented to us is it could be done in kind of like separate projects broken up a little bit. So partial funding does help them. It gets the ball rolling. And we'll revisit again next year.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Is this a one-page document or two-page document?
It's the same thing. It's just this has their final allocation on it, and that's just a bigger version of the same final spreadsheet.
Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't missing the sheet.
If you read that, it's the same stuff. I just
Yeah.
wanted to include the smaller one because it had the headline and we could see that it was their final work product.
Thanks, Jason. So on that workbook, you probably have the project request, which is what came into us, the initial allocation, which is our first time through, and then a final allocation. which is what we're working with. That's the 1.2 million number. Just want to make sure we're level set here with what we're looking at. So going back to the list, the police cars was the second most highest ranked, and that's just to replace older, higher mileage vehicles. We try to do funding ideally of 2.5 cars per year. That's always been a challenge for us, so we try and at least do 2. This year, we went with the final allocation of 71,000, which is basically only 1. They did have a newer one that was replaced. I forget when that was. Not
The K-9 car.
Yeah, that's the one.
It was replacing our allocations in June.
Thank you, Angie.
So that was the methodology because the K-9 car was replaced. You didn't need to fund the 2 in CIP.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to preach too much. All these projects are so critical, and we would love to do 2.5 every year. You have to make cuts to get down to that 1.2 from 9. So,
But the thought process was it's still 2. It's just not 2 out of CIP.
yeah, exactly. You have 1 from CIP, 1 was already done. We at least get 2 out of it, and we'll fight the battle again next year. Yeah, good summation. Pavement management, that's the biggest chunk of change. It's almost a third, 446,000. You can see the initial request was $1 million, and there's a lot of history to this. I think it was something like $17-20 million to quote unquote do it right. And the problem is 446,000 sounds like a lot. It's not going to go very far, and we're actually falling behind by allocating that amount. So we're not even steady state. We're falling behind by only allocating that much, but that much is 1/3 of our total allocation. So it's a tough battle. We might have talked the longest about that particular item. So we tried to do the best we could, and 446,000 was the final tally for that one. Townwide drainage. I'm sorry, was there a question? Okay, townwide drainage, actually parallel conversation with that. It's needed. 100,000 should help. There's quite a few projects that need help, catch basins, etc. Ideally, we should fund it a little bit more and maybe we can get ahead of it. We're just trying to stay level with it, and that's the best we can do. So 100,000 is our final allocation recommended for that. Public Works, 350,000 for a new truck. I think it's a 10-wheel truck. And I think, I'm going from memory, I think the one it's replacing is 23-ish years old. So it's something that's desperately needed. A town vehicle like that, in theory, is going to help everyone around town, as you take care of the town properties. It should be something that everyone sees a little bit of value from. So we went with a recommendation to get a new vehicle for them because their vehicles are getting very old at this point. So it's for a 10-wheel truck. Down a couple rows is ceiling tiles for Broadbrook School. They are falling down, and the glue contains asbestos. So there's a project from the Board of Ed to fully remove and replace all of them. This is giving them a little bit of help in that process. When you're dealing with asbestos and kids, it's not something you want to linger too much, but you can't just glue them back up because of that asbestos. So Board of Ed is tackling it as their own project. I believe they have money in their own CNR, and we're just trying to help them out a little bit.
Amy, how far along is that in terms, how much money is in their CNR line now?
They have 65.
65?
It's 45. They have 65 right now. So this will be 110 altogether if the 45 goes.
Thank you.
Is that just for that one room that's problematic, or is that for all the
That's
tiles in the
that's
school?
No, that's the
Just
gym
the
ceiling.
gym ceiling.
Oh, it's the gym ceiling, okay, so it's not that other room. Okay.
The full project quote was 130, so that gets pretty close. So
It's the gym.
couple down from there is the GIS system. I've used this a couple of times. It's a pretty neat system and very important. The request was for 25,000. We had been giving them that pretty consistently, but again, we had to make cuts, so we funded it halfway just to keep the momentum there. So 12,500 for that project.
Amy, same question. Is there existing CNR money?
87,000.
Okay. And how much do we expend on an annual basis?
Well, this year we spent 17,000, but there's work that's been done that hasn't been billed. So we don't know what that real leftover money's left. There's some MS4 work that's been done that has not been billed.
So is it safe to say we spend 25 grand a year on GIS?
Carlos. What level we're trying to do on the mapping.
Yep.
Some are more expensive than others.
Next up is sidewalks, 20,000. That's just not gonna go very far at all, honestly, with sidewalks, but we are working as part of a grant, so we want to keep funding something for the sidewalk, so just trying to give them some support and some money so they can continue on with those repairs and additions as needed. Then skipping down a few more rows to the reval for coming up. It's something that pretty much has to be done every 4 or 5 years, but we've realized that funding it about 1/5 every year is the best way to do it. So we fund 50,000, so every 5th year, that's 250,000, and that seems to work out pretty well. So that's the logic behind that one. Next one is the public record scanning. So we're scanning documents. It adds a ton of efficiency, a ton of protection when they're online. The request was for 49,000. It's an ongoing project. We've allocated 25,000 to keep that going. And the last one here is Department of Public Works equipment. They need equipment for use in their garage, and that's 20,000. All those brings us to 1.2 million that the target was. I don't think there might be one project that we fully funded. All the projects that we funded were unfortunately only partial, and less than half of the projects that we wanted to fund, we were able to fund. You can see the entire list there. If there's no dollar amount in final allocation, unfortunately, we just couldn't fund them. Again, that doesn't mean they're not important. And unfortunately, I would guess most of those are going to show up this fall when we start this process again. So we all understand on the committee why that number is what it is with the 1.2 million, but we feel like we're falling behind each year that we do it. So. Yes, sir.
If you could go ahead.
Sorry.
I just want to make sure I go through the first selectman for this. So first, I want to thank all of you folks. There's a wide variety of people that serve on this committee, and I hear from a number of them that they work really hard and they're diligent, and there's a lot of effort that goes into all of this work. But I'm having a question about sort of like the long-term strategy here, because it seems that every year we suck out of the CIP money roads and $400,000 for DPW equipment, new truck or new vehicle, and nothing that is smaller that is a necessity for our community. I see nothing. A lot of things that are necessities, as you agree, are just not getting done year after year. And I guess I want to ask a couple of questions. They're not for you to answer necessarily, but put out there. Why aren't we bonding for vehicles for like DPW vehicles and having like a plan and bonding? Why aren't we bonding for road improvements? The town paid off like $6 million of debt. Our payments, our debt service payments are very low. And maybe we should think about bonding for some of these necessities. And then instead of just stripping all the money out so that we can't get other things that need to get done in town. And then the other question I had was, so there's other sources of funds for some of these items. The town budget includes money for like road improvements and DPW equipment and things like that. The town just voted to spend over $2 million on new projects, which included some items on this list and some that are not. And the town just, the Board of Finance just voted to spend $930,000 of extra funds from the budget, this year's budget, that's not going back to the fund balance. And it seems that a better strategy would be to take all of these funds from all these different sources and get input from CIP and maybe have CIP talk about prioritize those fundings and spending so that we're synergizing. Because haphazardly, it seems to me, $930,000 of extra money from last year just got spent without going back to CIP and saying, what are our priority projects we need to spend here? And the same with the $2 million from the fund balance. I'm just not seeing coordination and also against how much money is already in the town budget for these things. I just wish we had some better coordination for all these sources of funds, because the problem is that skate park, BMX skate park, they've been waiting years to finalize their skate park. They're going to be waiting decades because they don't rank high enough. They don't rank higher than police vehicles, of course.
They don't submit requests.
They did submit a request.
They did this year?
This year.
For
Yeah.
first year, right?
No, every year.
We gave money out of ARPA last
No, everybody,
year, $10,000 out of ARPA to finish their second layer,
yeah, so,
but they have a third layer out there that has been waiting.
In the first layer, they funded through,
Fundraising, second,
fundraising.
they did most of it.
Yep.
yeah.
Just a piece was 10,000 was ARPA to finish their second layer.
Well, all the businesses in town that applied, that qualified, and all the organizations that were the nonprofits that qualified got ARPA money or funding. And so to say that we gave them ARPA money, they qualified for a grant that really didn't do much at all in that park. They need like $75,000 to fix it. I'm using them as an example. Every year they come in. This year they came in at 38. It got reduced to 20. Then it got eliminated. And that's not the only project. There's other important projects for this town that need to get done, as you know, and it must be heartbreaking to sit on CIP and you get a budget of $1.2 million and you see you just got wiped out with 3 or 4 items. Now you really have smaller amounts of money that you're trying to allocate for smaller projects. I just don't know why. I'm proposing tonight that we start thinking about bonding for our roads. We should get some money bonded out so we can do road improvements without stripping out of our CIP. And we need to really scrutinize like these DPW vehicles. They got a street sweeper for like $350,000. You know, the town could have contracted out at $15,000 a year to do street sweeping for the entire town. But instead we spend $350,000 on a street sweeper. And now it's a 23-year-old vehicle that I don't know. I hope you guys did your homework to see whether or not, you know, it's broken down. Because 400, and not criticizing you, but I know you did your homework, but I'm frustrated because $446,000 for a new vehicle every year, like 300,000 or 400,000. This is almost $450,000 is going out for new vehicles for that department, and the police department isn't hardly getting anything, and the schools is getting like hardly anything. They were lucky to get that vote for the track at a town meeting because they need boilers. There's chimney replacements. They're getting 70,000. Well, no, they're getting something, $46,000 for ceiling tiles. That's it. So, and I'm sharing my frustration that you have as well. I'm saying this is not sustainable. I don't think it's sustainable. We have to start taking all of our monies and prioritizing the way you're doing it. And we got to start thinking about bonding out for some of these projects that are just wiping out the CIP budget. That's just my feeling.
Well, I would hope we would leave that money for a new police station, new ambulance bay,
Right.
schools moving forward to do bonding. If we can take and do things through grant money, which we've done a lot of things in grant money, thanks to Jason and Jamie Foster and our other delegation. You can sit there and say that there isn't any thought, there isn't anything done with what's decisions that are being made. Through the whole budget cycle, there has been decisions looking at previous requests that have come through. Is there still a need for that? Can that be taken care of someplace else? Can we do that with extra money that we have and put it through as part of that $980,000 without increasing town taxes to individuals? So the ARPA money, the other money from that we've got from the solar company to put out there to keep that tax base where we're hoping to keep it for future years. So I think we've done a pretty damn good job. May not be 100% of what you're requesting, but they have always had the support of me and other people that I have sat with on the board to look at these projects. But I'll go back to when you look at these projects and how It could be something today you want and then tomorrow things change and you don't need it. And I'll use the bathrooms at the middle school. 3 superintendents ago, for a good 5 or 6 years, it was, we got to replace the bathrooms, we got to replace the upstairs showers. Never to ever be used. And then all of a sudden it disappeared all of a sudden because they decided we're never going to use that. So things change, new things come through, and you got to adjust accordingly. To put down A, B, and C is going to happen in year 2004, 2005, and 2006 and 2007. This is going to happen. It doesn't always work. We tried years ago when I sat on the board with other people. We tried putting the police cars on a rotating schedule. The same thing for the senior services, their vehicles on a rotating schedule. So this year, anything that was a reoccurring expense, such as road repairs, equipment, for different places, so that you knew you were going to need to replace your police cruisers every so many years. So we put them on a rotating schedule, so we weren't doing 10 at a time. And that worked for a lot of years until other people got in place and they decided that they didn't need to have the cars that they were having, and we could, change that from 4 cars on a rotation basis. They need 2 cars because of the economy. So you have to make those adjustments. But just to say, go out and bond so many things, these things that we can take out of capital improvement where we know we already have the money available, I think would be reckless on our part. And that's just my personal opinion.
There have been
Go ahead.
There have been some projects that we've been able to remove from the CIP world. Police radios, I think the various roofs we talk about all the time have been on here for probably the 7, 8 years I've been doing this. Other ones.
Repairs, water line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna point out quickly, on this list, from what we were, the things that Selectman Yagelov referred to that were taken care of at Board of Finance and the town meeting last week or week before. It's at least 1.5, maybe 1.7 on this, but let's just go with 1.5 million. So that brings the final allocation to 2.7 million, which is 600,000 above the initial allocation. So you can't really say it's haphazard or we're not getting things done, because if this list says isn't even up to date now because of what we did in the last couple of weeks. So
I wasn't saying we weren't getting things done.
and if you wanted a bond,
I didn't
no,
say we
but
weren't
I'm
getting
still
things done.
talking.
Yeah.
If you wanted a bond, I mean,
Yeah.
we could come up with a bazillion things we want to bond. I'd like to bond to save some farmland. Let's
Right.
do that,
Right.
right? So, I mean, there's only so much money and only so much bonding capacity.
I think if I can finish my thought real quick, we do feel that frustration for sure. As we walk into the process, knowing that payment's going to probably be a third of what we get, there is that palpable frustration for sure. But knowing that some of these projects have made themselves into the bonding world or into those discussions for year end helps us a little bit. But I think we'd like to see that maybe formalized somehow. And whether we're part of it or not, that's for you to all to decide, I guess. But I think I can speak for the community and say we'd be happy to try and help any way we can. So, there is that frustration. We have seen some successes come from it. And I think if we can kind of formalize, that project that comes before us, that's like the track, for example. I think it was $1 million at the time. It wasn't even given to us this year because it had just been on there for so long. They could read the room. It wasn't no progress was going to be made. So we'll get a different direction. So we kind of can formalize that great project. We would rank it somewhere up here. How do we move forward? Because we'll never get to that level. So I think that would help our frustration a little bit.
I will say that when there are opportunities for capital projects that come up, the first thing that we do is look to CIP's list to see what's on there that the available funds allow us to get done. So I'm going to just pick one, the police department vehicles at $140,000. If Amy says, hey, you know what, we've got $40,000 that we can contribute towards a capital project. Well, we're not going to just park it on something that costs 3 times that. We're going to look to see what can we get done for $40,000 and actually get something accomplished and crossed off the list.
Mm-hmm.
But the work that your committee does is the benchmark that we look to for the ensuing 12 months.
Appreciate that.
Okay, so if there's nothing further, I'd ask for a motion to accept the recommendations from Capital Improvement Committee and forward them to the Board of Finance.
Move to accept the recommendations from the Capital Improvement Planning Committee for CIP projects and forward it to the Board of Finance.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Tax refunds.
Move to approve the tax refunds totaling $638.56.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Okay, selectmen's reports, I don't have very much. I just want to share that the state comptroller, Sean Scanlon, was in East Windsor today. He was talking about a new prescription drug program that his office has put together after being authorized to do so by the legislature. It's called Array RX, and it is something that can save people hundreds of dollars a month in prescription drug costs. Everybody is eligible. It's not an age restricted thing. There, you can get more information at the senior center or at the comptroller's website. But that was, it was first of all, great news to have a statewide elected official here to a full audience at the senior center. It was also, I thought, an important policy thing that he was out advertising. He was quick to point out that the state's sole advertising budget for this project is him going around doing stuff like this. So it was actually something I learned more about and probably will look into as well. But I just want to share that that's what happened today. Other than that, it's been a lot of end of year paperwork stuff in my office. So I probably will have something more entertaining next time that we all get together. Marie? Oh, I did. Oh. No, I didn't.
Amended agenda. From the original.
I am working from the original. Apologies about that.
No, that's okay. You.
Make a motion to hold G and H until after executive session.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll now turn to Marie for selectmen's reports.
Yeah, I apologize. I have nothing to offer due to personal reasons, but I'll catch up at some point.
Fair enough. Keith?
not tonight, thank you.
Alan?
My only meeting at planning and zoning was canceled this week, so I yield back my time.
Sarah, the green is wide open.
I had the Warehouse Point Fire District Commissioners meeting July 1st. There were 80 calls in the month of June. They've had 407 calls from January to June of this year. The fire marshal's office completed 25 inspections in June on that side of town. There was some damage to Marine 138, which is the fire district's boat. They've been getting called out often to the Connecticut River for emergencies to assist Enfield and other departments. And sometimes the level of the Connecticut River is very low. There's been some damage from rocks or debris to the fiberglass on the bottom. It's still in service, but they're having conversations as to how to repair that, or if they need to replace the boat. It's a very old boat. I think it's from 1980s.
Yeah, it was old when I was there.
Yeah. And I know they were just called out again on Sunday. And the Arts and Culture meeting is moved to next week, and Veterans Commission tonight was canceled. That's all that I have.
Great. We'll turn now to the public participation. This is a second opportunity for members of the public to address the Board of Selectmen. Same rules as before. I'll ask anybody who has concerns in the room to state your name and your address, and then you'll have an opportunity to speak, and we'll provide the folks online the same opportunity. Yes, sir.
I haven't really understand some. This finance, talking about the American Finance and Credit Service. These people will go after delinquent bills, tax bills. Is that what the purpose of them?
That is correct.
So seems like they're bounty hunters. They get 15%.
I suppose that's a modern equivalent.
One direction on that.
Really do. I think you're gonna have a lot of people not happy, even lawsuits. And those people are after their money, and there's not much gonna stop them. I'm not going to really look into this heavily, so that's just my opinion.
Are you suggesting from the delinquent taxpayer or from the,
I'm asking for help to understand what you guys gonna do. I thought you indicated that he was going to pick up delinquent taxes.
correct?
For personal property. Personal property.
Which is what our taxes are paid in town to, personal property.
No, your taxes are paid on real property, personal property, and motor vehicles. We already do the same process for motor vehicles. This is a new initiative for personal property. Real property is your house, personal property is like office equipment. And motor vehicles are obviously motor
So
vehicles.
he's going into personal.
Right.
So he's gonna hook a record around to a car or a truck or vehicle.
No, that would be motor
That
vehicle.
would be motor vehicle.
And that's been happening for years and years.
And, you know, it sounds like a muscle attempt to get money.
From delinquent taxpayers, yes.
And the old saying goes, if I have to pay my taxes, everybody has to pay their taxes. And if they can't afford their taxes, there's policies and procedures in place where they can do payment plans if necessary. They can be guided in the right direction.
Now, it's other people still set in their ways. I'm not, because I'm not that old, but. But nonetheless, you know, I have to see problems. You get this movement. Better if they're going up their personal property, real estate, motor vehicle, wherever.
Thank you for your opinion, sir.
They're gonna get approval to go on people's property, right?
No, that's not how this works.
That's not how it works.
You know, trying to understand this.
So I have a business, I'm operating it out of my house.
Yes.
I made $100,000 this year and I have a computer, I have a printer, I have office equipment. And I decide after the deadline date that I no longer want this. 3 months into the business, I don't want it, I cancel it. But I don't notify anybody that I'm no longer running a business. So they're gonna go after the delinquency because the state law says they can collect for a full year. So you owe, based upon the agreement you make with the state, you owe the town that money. Just like my car taxes, just like my property taxes. Whether I can afford to pay it or not afford to pay it is still my responsibility to pay it. And if I can't pay it, it's my responsibility to take that step and notify them and see what they could do to help. Yeah. So if you go back 15, 20 years, and if you go to look at the statistics, if you look at it, there was never anything close to 100% of taxes in this town being collected for whatever reason. Now you look at it, we're in the 90s, in the high 90s in tax collection rates, because it's no longer waiting to the end of the year to have the treasurer to come out and say, okay, these are all delinquent taxes, please sign off on these. You don't do that anymore, and rightfully so.
Is there any other public comment? Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, you had when you were holding on.
Buckley, Kingsmore. In reference to painting these crosswalks, there's what, 3 of them involved?
I understand there to be one, but I'm not sure that's my understanding is there's one.
Is it gonna take a long time to do? Or you have to close the road down or?
I don't imagine it. I believe the bureaucratic process is going to be significantly longer.
You paint the block with different colors. Yeah, so it's not like something you just go and just paint it all at once. You're gonna do each individual block. Is that how it's gonna work?
I'm sure there's a pattern and a strategy that would be employed that would make things move along relatively quick. Again, it's the red tape that's going to slow them down.
And they're not gonna impact the placement of these blocks. That doesn't get changed at all.
They're not actually blocks. It's concrete. It's stamped concrete. So nothing moved. Nothing can move. It's one piece.
Touching it, just paint. Okay. I know how long it's gonna take. It's another open-ended question.
We'll go fast if you want to volunteer to help.
I go through there all the time.
Bring friends. We'll have to go around it for that couple hour period.
And since it's not a permanent situation, I had a question. Since they're gonna put rainbows across the road, are they gonna wanna change Rye Street to Rainbow Road?
Oh, please, that's sarcasm. That's unnecessary. And at this point, Jason, I'm gonna call point of order and stop this nonsense.
So is there any other public comment? Any other public comment? Any other public comment? We will have an executive session. It will include attorneys Robert T. Crescenzo and Ryan McCann. I'd ask for a motion to go into executive session, please.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
We are in executive session at 8:21.
Great. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
See you.
Okay.
I don't have an update there anyway. It is 10:01. We're out of executive session. There's two items to come before the Board of Selectmen. First item of business is agenda item 9G.
19.
Discuss and possible vote on executive session item pertaining to the Church Street fire. Is there a motion?
So I move to authorize the first selectman to enter into a settlement agreement on the relocation lien of 5 Church Street for the amount discussed in executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Agenda item 9H to discuss and vote on an East Windsor Solar 2 appeal settlement.
Make a motion to allow Updike, Kelly and Spacey to settlement authority for the East Windsor 2 solar appeal based on criteria discussed in executive session.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
If I have just a comment to make, I'm going to vote against this, but I'm not going to put my reasons on the record because the litigation is still pending. And so I'm not going to make any comments here about it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh,
Also no. Motion carries 3-2. With no further business to come before the Board of Selectmen, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move that we adjourn at 10:03 PM.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 10:03 PM.